Would you go out on a date with my niece? When my director Kevin said that, I stopped the hand that was bringing a sandwich to my mouth. I'm sorry for the sudden request, but I'll make it worth your while. Just name it. Today was a rare occasion. The director had invited me to eat lunch with him in the park next to our small manufacturing plant at work. I had a feeling he wanted to talk about something, but I never imagined it would be a date invitation. And he was even offering a reward. Honestly, I couldn't quite grasp what he meant and found myself asking again without thinking. A date, you say? The idea of a date was foreign to me, a guy who hasn't had much to do with women for over 30 years. And the person in question was a relative of my workplace director, which was an odd situation to say the least. Why on earth would you ask me to do something like that? Well, you see, you don't have a brother or cousin who looks just like you, do you? No, I don't have anyone like that. It's just that I showed my niece a picture of you and she said you were her first love. Remember that photo from when the union members went camping? I cooked up some great camp food and I showed her the photo from then. You were in that picture, right? That's when she blushed and said, "That's the guy I first fell for," and now she says she wants to meet you. I couldn't believe it. I had no idea who it could be from my past. But what's with this convenient story that sounds like a drama? I'm just as surprised as you are. The director gave a wry smile in response to my words. My name's Michael. I'm 33 years old. I'm just an unremarkable, single guy who's never been much of a hit with the ladies, working as a rank-and-file employee at a small-town manufacturing factory. For some reason, the other day, I was picked to be the date for my director's niece. And let me tell you about this girl. She's drop-dead gorgeous. I let out a big sigh as I stared at her picture on my cell phone. Her name's Emily. She's apparently a college student turning 20 this year. Who'll think that I could go on a date with such a pretty girl? And to be invited by her. Oh, how lucky I am. So, you'll meet with her, right? Yeah, of course. I stuffed a sandwich into my mouth with gusto. From that day on, every day was thrilling, and I couldn't wait for the date. When was the last time I had a date with a girl? Oh, but I've got to be careful. She's the niece of my director, the department head. If she reports back that I was all googly-eyed just because she asked me out, I'll be in deep trouble. Thinking about all this, I tried to calm my racing heart as I headed to the station to meet her. There he is. You're Michael, right? Huh? I was taken aback by the sudden sweet voice. In that moment, I found myself face to face with a woman I didn't recognize. Not good. Our lips were too close, and I found myself becoming conscious of her. You're Emily, right? I straightened up and tried to appear calm as I spoke. Yes, that's right. I'm looking forward to today. She smiled at me with joy. She's definitely cute. I was captivated by her smile, as warm as a spot in the sun. Michael, let's start by going to a cafe. Oh, okay. Snapping back to reality, I decided to ask something that had been on my mind for a while. By the way, I heard from the director that we've met before, right? Was it during elementary school, or maybe in middle school? Even looking at her face, I couldn't remember meeting her in the past. Then Emily said with an embarrassed laugh, "Well, I told my uncle you were my first love, but actually, I just thought you were my type after seeing a picture of you. I heard from my uncle you weren't married, so I thought I'd like to meet you." As she said that, she blushed, looking into my eyes, and smiled warmly again. I couldn't look away from her smile. And so, my date with Emily began, but that day, I was completely at her mercy the entire time. "Here you go. Have some ice cream. Open wide, please." "I can eat by myself, you know." I managed a nervous laugh and told her that, to which she puffed her cheeks and said, "Oh, come on. Today is our date, right? You could at least indulge me that much." "Really? Oh, okay. Got it." I gave in and ate the ice cream she offered. But man, this is embarrassing. Then she gently stroked my cheek with her finger. "Whoa, what? You had a bit of ice cream on your cheek?" Hey, don't startle me like that. Why not? We're lovers for the day, aren't we? She scooped some vanilla ice cream with her spoon and took a bite herself. Delicious. You can't beat vanilla ice cream. I was surprised by how forward she was, considering we had just met that day. Is this what all young folks are like nowadays? Lovers for a day. Her words gave me a bit of a pang in my heart. After eating at the cafe, we went to see a movie at her request. I hardly ever watch movies, so I was really taken with the sweet romance story. Sharing a large bucket of popcorn between us also made me feel thrilling. Time with the lovely Emily flew by, and I was sad that this fun time was going to end just after one day. Hey, if it's not too much trouble, I'd like to see you again. Then she just looked down, saying nothing. What? Did Emily feel something was off after dating me? Of course, that would make sense. If there's more than a decade age difference, it wouldn't be strange to have a generation gap in many areas. She would probably feel some discomfort too. While I was lost in thought, she dropped a bombshell. I might disappear soon. What do you mean? I asked, bewildered. She then looked down and slowly started to speak. I'm sick. I have a heart condition I was born with. I might not be around much longer. I could only widen my eyes in shock at her words. She then told me what was happening to her. I've had this heart condition since I was born, and the doctors said I need a transplant to live a longer life. There's talk about going abroad for the surgery. It's terrifying. As she said this, tears welled up in her eyes. Apparently, she had been dealing with this heart condition since she was young and was told by doctors that she needed an organ transplant. Even though a transplant should give her a chance at a healthy life, she seemed afraid and hesitant about it. Surgery isn't always 100% successful, you know. That thought alone is terrifying. Tears began to spill from her eyes. I gently took her hand in mine. It's gonna be okay. You'll find a great doctor who'll take good care of you. You'll get better and come back to us. I looked straight into her eyes as I reassured her. This feels like old times. What do you mean, like old times? I asked, puzzled. You probably don't remember, do you? The little girl you comforted in the hospital. Hearing this, I frantically searched my memories for a clue. Wait a minute. I had a hunch based on what she said. It was an incident from decades ago. My mom was ill and hospitalized, and I used to visit the hospital daily. My mom's room was a large shared room, and every time I visited, there was a little girl from the pediatric ward who would come to see my mom. She was a bit of a handful, sneaking in to see my mom without the nurses knowing. Convincing her to go back was my job. Are you, Emmy? I couldn't help but raise my voice. You finally remembered. I was waiting until you did. She laughed shyly. But you know, when we reunited, I felt a tad lonely. After all, you didn't remember me at all. Well, I'd never guessed the director's niece was that little Emmy. Meeting you here of all places. All my memories came flooding back, recalling the old times. When I would sneak out of my room to go see your mom, you would call me Emmy and escort me back to my room. I'm going to admit now, I did it on purpose to get some attention from you. Is that right? Yeah, because no one would play old maid with me. She smiled sadly and gently lowered her gaze. Back when she was hospitalized, she couldn't get along with the other kids in the pediatric ward and was often alone. She must have felt lonely. She often snuck out of her room, giving the nurses a hard time, the little mischief maker. My mother, well, she always had a soft spot for her. You always cared for me too, playing with me along with your mom, but when she was discharged, you stopped coming to the hospital, which left me feeling really lonely. I didn't even ask for your contact information, so, when my uncle showed me your picture, I was shocked. You did a good job recognizing me. Well, you hadn't changed a bit. Impressed by her sharp memory, I couldn't help but chuckle. So, that little girl had been thinking of me all this time. I'm still going back and forth between the hospital and home. The doctors say the number of visits would decrease if I get the transplant. Don't worry, you'll be fine. I spoke to her with gentle assurance. She looked up, surprised, with tears welling up in her eyes, turning them towards me. I was so anxious, thinking, what if the surgery doesn't go well? I desperately wanted to see you, Michael, so I asked my uncle to bear with me and asked you to come along today. I took her hand and squeezed it firmly, conveying a certain message. Tears quickly overflowed from her eyes. Is that okay with you? Yes, please do. At my words, she wiped away her tears and responded. Emily came home crying yesterday. I was really worried about her. The next day, I talked to my director about the date during our lunch break. Was she still crying? Yeah, she cried all the way home and had a rough night. Turns out, the director had been like a father to Emily. I'm sorry for taking up a whole day of your time when you were so busy. By the way, what would you like as a thank you? To the director, I replied. For the date, I'd like to ask for Emily herself. Please let me have her. That's what I had told her. That once the surgery was successfully over, we would officially start dating. After the transplant surgery is done, I'd like to date her with marriage in mind. Emily was so happy she cried all night. She couldn't believe she'd get to marry her long-admired Michael, and she said she wants to live a long life, for your sake too. Is that so? I'm glad. It was the first time I'd ever seen Emily cry tears of joy like that. I hoped my confession would give her even a little bit of support as she faced her surgery with fear. I truly believed that from the bottom of my heart. Some time later, Emily went abroad to undergo a transplant surgery. And thankfully, the surgery was a success. Now, I spend my days enjoying the email exchanges with Emily, who's in the hospital. Recently, I've been feeling so well. I wish I could fly right back there. Whoa there. Flying is definitely out of the question. Come on, I'm feeling great and I just can't wait to see you soon. I feel the same way, Emily. With every email we exchanged, I felt our connection grow stronger. I couldn't wait for Emily to come back. I wanted to hold her in my arms again soon. And then, a few months after her trip, Emily safely returned to the States. I'm home, Michael. Welcome back, Emily. I smiled gently and held my dear girl close. Thump, thump. Her new heart was beating strongly. That's the sound of Emily being alive. My beloved is alive and well. Emily, there's something I want to give you. This. Let's get married. Yes. Emily smiled through her tears and said yes. And on her finger, I placed an engagement ring. She came back to life. For me. Now, it's my turn to live to the fullest for her. I vowed that in my heart.